this Wednesday. Welcome to our members of the media. Thank you for joining us online. And with the big holiday weekend coming up, Mayor Demings will discuss the absolute importance of mask wearing. Dr. Pino will as well, to stop the spread of the virus. He will also have information on the governor's moratorium regarding evictions and foreclosures and other information as well. Always happy to have Dr. Raul Pino from the Florida Department of Health in Orange County with information on our testing numbers and our trending. And we have with us Orange County Comptroller, Mr. Phil Diamond, here with the report on TDT revenue. We start with Mayor Demings. Mayor?
All right, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here once again. As we come to the middle of another week, I just want to share with you some information that going back to March 13th, you all may recall that on that day, the President of the United States declared a state of emergency in America. On that same day, I also declared a state of emergency here in Orange County. And so since that period of time, our Emergency Operations Center has been activated for 111 days. The WHO, or the World Health Organization, officially named the novel coronavirus COVID-19 on February the 11th. In the last 7 days, COVID-19 has impacted all of America, but here within our community, in the last 7 days, Florida reported more cases than any other state. The next 4 states, California, Texas, Arizona, and Georgia. On Monday, we came to you and we told you that on that day, we set a record. We broke the 10,000 mark for the coronavirus cases within Orange County itself. And here we are midweek, and we have nearly reached 11,000 cases. In fact, today it is reported through the Florida Department of Health website that we have a total of 10,874 COVID cases within Orange County. Within the last 24 hours of the last day, we have 560 new cases just since yesterday. 58 residents in Orange County have died from the coronavirus. So what I'm saying to you is that this is a critical period of time to remain focused on flattening the curve to slow the coronavirus spread within our community. So I continue to implore all of our residents to work together to follow the directives that have been put in place by the Department of Health and other local officials as well. Dr. Pino talks about the 3 W's. That's why I looked at him a moment ago. He talked about wash your hands or use hand sanitizer, wear a mask or covering over your nose and mouth, and watch your distance. Stay 6 feet apart, avoid close contact. Now that is going to become really important as we approach the Independence Day weekend, the 4th of July this weekend, for us to adhere to those guidelines. We know that this works, and so again, we want our community to come together to stay focused on the efforts. We have tested now over 138,000 individuals, and our positivity rate here in Orange County is 7.9%, which is a slight increase since Monday when we came before you. Over 50,000 people have been tested at the convention center alone, which is the regional testing location. Earlier today, I had a conversation with the Florida Director of Emergency Management, who reminded me that the convention center, the Orange County Convention Center location, is the #1 testing location for the entire state of Florida. Our Orange County Health Services testing sites have been moved around the county to make certain that we infiltrate every community within our county. Orange County Health Services has continued to do testing at Legacy Middle School this week, and although their appointments are completely booked, we are taking appointments for next week at Legacy Middle School. A correction at Barnett Park is going to be the location, I think, next week. Since Monday, we have tested over 1,000 individuals at Legacy Middle School. To date, our Orange County Health Services, in addition to the testing that's been done at the Convention Center, testing being done by the Department of Health, our Orange County Health Services has tested over 12,000 individuals, and they've seen a slightly lower positivity rate within the communities that they have been testing in of 3.9%. We will be expanding our testing next week again into West Orange County, and that testing site will be at Barnett Park. For information on our testing locations, you can go to our website at ocfl.net // coronavirus for more information. Just yesterday, Governor DeSantis extended the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until August the 1st due to the pandemic. We get a number of questions from our residents about the eviction processes, and we just want to make certain that everyone is aware that the governor extended the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures for another 30 days. Our website also has information on frequently asked questions regarding the evictions and other assistance that you may be able to receive as a result of being in that situation. You can get information at ocfl.net /housing FAQs, ocfl.net /housing FAQs if you find yourself in a situation where you have issues with eviction, paying rent, etc. There have been 10,900 individuals approved for assistance through the Orange County CARES funding. We will continue to offer the financial assistance to our residents, individuals and families, and to date, nearly $11 million in financial assistance has gone to the families here in Orange County. In terms of business assistance through our CARES Act funding, we have now processed nearly $14.2 million in grants at $10,000 each for small businesses here within Orange County. And again, we are assisting small businesses up to 100 employees, and that process seems to be going well. And so with that, at this point, I believe we turn it over to Dr. Pino, who is going to come forward and give you a health update as well. Dr. Pino.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. As the mayor indicated, we passed the 10,000. We have tested 138,000 people, our residents, and more if we count the surrounding counties that come to the regional center. Yesterday, we received 2,964 negative results, and we received 540 positive results for a 15.4% yesterday, a positivity rate. To give you an idea, the last 72 hours, yesterday 540, the day before on Monday, 283, on Sunday 346, and the day before that 827. We haven't been in the 500 since June 23rd. So I'm trying to give you just an idea that it could be that the pandemic is decelerating in our county. Now we have seen 72 hours of lower rates, and coincidentally, it marks the 7th, 8th, and 9th days of the ordinance for face wearing in the county. So I would like to thank all our population for taking in our suggestions and the ordinance of wearing face masks. Is clearly evident in the streets that people are adhering for the majority to this ordinance, and it's going to be critical to slow down the pandemic in our county. It is going to be critical to slow down the pandemic in our county. It's the only tool that we have in the toolbox right now, short of a cure or a vaccine. We had 59 deaths, 2 from when I talked to you last. Our 58 fatality is a 61-year-old male, white, non-Hispanic. We don't know the exposure, and the person had pre-existing conditions. It was hospitalized for 10 days. The 59 fatality that is not in the data, but it was reported to us, is 84-year-old male, white, non-Hispanic. We don't know the exposure, and we don't know the underlying conditions or when, how many days was hospitalized. They both died on the 26th. The 4th of July weekend is coming, and I just hope that we have learned from Memorial Day, and we are ready to celebrate the 4th of July and remain in social distancing, wash our hands, and wear a mask, and especially protect those who are older, over 65 years old, have pre-existing condition, who are pregnant, or who have immune deficiencies, situations that they may be dealing with. The median age for our county infection continue to be low, is 31. And it is also important to notice that in week 24th, that's when we took off in this new wave. The increase was of 202%, with 880 cases in that week. In week 25, we had an increase of 101%. We had 1,700 cases that week. And then the week after that, it was our highest. We have an increase of 159%, with 4,500 cases. So far this week, we are in the middle of the week, we had 1,110 cases, and so far it's a decrease of 76%, but that will change. Our hospitalization rates is a little bit higher than the state at 12.7. The state is 11.8. Our healthcare workers, something that we follow very close, are 8.3% of all cases. Florida has 9.9%. And our fatality rate, fortunately, is a lot lower than the state. We have 0.54%. The state has 2.29%. For hospitalizations, as of yesterday at 5 o'clock, we had 324 individuals hospitalized for COVID-19. 256 of those were in non-ICU beds, and 68 were in ICU beds. With that, I will pass the microphone to Controller Diamond. I will answer any question you may have later.
Thank you, Dr. Pino. I have to say I might have preferred to have give this news on Thursday or even Friday, since it is not good news right before the long holiday weekend. But the results are in for May's TDT collections. Our TDT collections for the May 2020 collection month were $1,144,000. That is a 95% decrease from May of 2019. That level, obviously, is a sharp decrease from May 2019, as we expected. The economy, especially the tourism sector, was essentially shut down in May. However, as we predicted, there was a slight improvement from the record lows of April's collections. However, TDT collections still stand at a level comparable to 1980 level collections on a per penny basis. Looking forward, Universal, SeaWorld, and many other attractions reopened in June, although at limited levels. Disney World is scheduled to reopen this month. although again at limited levels. Those are positive developments for TDT, our local economy, and all of the residents who depend on that economy for their jobs. Hopefully, with the reopening of the theme parks, we will soon see some improvements in TDT collections for the coming months. It is important to point out, however, that we are in uncharted territory, and nobody knows how long it will take to recover. The current level of collections is not sustainable over the long term. However, we are fortunate that Orange County has healthy TDT reserves that will help the county meet its current funding obligations for some time. We will continue to monitor TDT trends very closely, and we will release the June collections in early August. Thank you very much.
All right. Comptroller Diamond, there's bad news there, but there's good news also. The good news is the May collections were higher than the April. So we hope that that continues to be the trend, that our collections continue to increase as we continue to fight the virus, but also try to reignite our economy as well. So with that, if there are any questions that you may have, now would be the time.
Hi, Eric Sandoval with News 6. My first question is for Mr. Diamond over here. Could you help Orange County residents understand where this missing money would have gone to? What kind of programs does it help fund? And how much are you dipping into reserves right now?
Well, let me answer the second part of that first. And last month, we used about $13 million from reserves. So it was a little more than usual. Part of it is that, I think, as you know, we have bond payments that are due on the convention center, and part of that was that. But nonetheless, the number was about $13 million or so. As far as where the funds would go, that really depends on the board, the county commission, the mayor, as far as where the funds would go. This month, like you asked, and the funds went to pay whatever wasn't available to pay it with. So as far as going forward, that's really a question for the board. As far as some things that the TDT tax pays for, I mean, part of it is it pays for a number of projects around town, things that we've seen, things like it's helped to pay for the Science Center, it's helped to pay for the Coming Pulse Museum, it's helped to pay for a number of arts projects. It helps to pay to promote tourism. It helps to pay to keep the convention center maintained and in shape so that it can attract more business into the community and create jobs from that. So it's a number of things, and in the short term, we can weather it through reserves, but obviously we want to see that, we want to see that change.
Maybe this is a question for both Mr. Diamond and you, Mayor. Are you optimistic moving forward? We do have Disney reopening. We have SeaWorld that is reopened. We have Universal. What are you thinking now when you look at these numbers?
Well, we're living in a time of a pandemic. It's not going to last forever. At some point, it will pass us by and our economy will fully recover. None of us know exactly how long that's going to take for us to recover to pre-pandemic levels. But in addition to what the controller talked about, the expansion of our football stadium here, the Camping World Stadium, the building and expansion of the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, all of those were derivatives of funds from the tourist development tax. We even contribute to the arts community. Some of our local performing arts groups have received funds from it. And even some of the major sporting events that we have talked about historically. We hosted previously the NFL All-Star Games here for about 4 years. We have hosted the NBA All-Star Game here I said the NFL Pro Bowl, actually, and the NBA All-Star Game we hosted here. We've hosted over time the World Cup qualifying matches for soccer. We have a request to support the World Cup games in 2022 and try to get some of the soccer matches here then. So this tax is what helps us to create, I think tourism creates jobs. There are a significant number of households in our community that depend on these revenues to help pay their bills. And so it's significant. But we're not alone. Obviously, every civilized industrial nation around the world is feeling the economic impact from this pandemic, and America is no different. So we are all kind of living through these extraordinary times together.
Lara Greenberg, Fox 35.
She's over there.
There was a new interactive map that was put out by Harvard Global Health Institute today, looking at the numbers for COVID cases around the country, around the world, and it listed Florida as one of the hot spots. It's one of the red zones on their map, one of 3 states. And it says that that shelter at home is necessary in the state of Florida. And I know that the numbers are looking better here over the last couple of days, but I'm just wondering if you, Mayor Demings or Dr. Pino, has any thoughts on if we still at some point could be heading toward another shelter at home here in the county or beyond.
I mean, you know, there's bad news in the numbers, and I'm going to ask Dr. Pino to come forward. He's an expert in that area. But even within the bad news, there's some good news because even though our numbers have continued to climb, the number of individuals who are in our hospitals who are critically ill, that number hasn't significantly increased. And when we look at the rate of deaths per 100,000, even though the total number of positive cases remain fairly high and significant here. Within Orange County, when you look at the load, and I don't want to minimize the number of deaths, but to put it in perspective, the percentage of deaths or the number of deaths per 100,000 is much lower than some other states, some other major metropolitan areas around the country. So that speaks to a number of things. And let me just turn it over to Dr. Pino. He's the expert in this regard.
So that's an interesting question. If we shelter down, we will have to do at least for 6 weeks. You have to complete 2 cycles of the pandemic and then leave room for another cycle. The whole country will have to do it together. And even when you restart the economy again, if we don't have a cure or a vaccine, the numbers will go up again because we are the ones transmitted the disease. So the best solution is not to stop the economy and start the economy every 3 months, but is to adhere to the guidance that has been put in place so that we'll learn how to live with this. And also the approach is, and Florida has done a good job despite the coverage of the news in some areas, we have done a wonderful job. Florida has done a wonderful job in protecting long-term care facilities. Fortunately, so far, we haven't had any major issues, but it has been a constant testing at these facilities and also responding very quickly when we have any outbreaks. So we are monitoring that very well. I think our strategy should be to protect those who are most vulnerable and protect those functions that keep the economy and the society going. You know, first responders, police, healthcare workers in this case because of the nature of the pandemic. And also rapidly get test results so that we can rapidly diagnose people and isolate. And again, adhere to social distancing, wear masks, and washing your hands. As the mayor said, within the bad news, there has been a 72 hours deceleration. It could take off again, but I think it coincides really with putting the mask on and emphasizing the measures that need to be in place.
This question for Mr. Diamond. Just going back to the tourism, if you can talk about the occupancy rates at the hotels, the resorts area, and what you hope to see down the line. But if you can talk about what it is right now.
Sure. I don't have the exact occupancy rates except to say that they're a lot lower than anybody would like to see them, and a lot of hotels are closed. And until you see occupancy rates go up and until you see hotels reopen, you're not going to see TDT recover. I do know that Universal has a number of hotels that they've opened recently, not all of them, but a number of them. Disney's got a schedule to reopen hotels as well, and I'm confident that they're doing that in a way that will be safe and provide an atmosphere that people will want to come to. So as far as occupancy levels, it's just, it's something that's happening around the country. You look at the airport, I mean, their numbers are down in the 90% range, maybe even higher. So people just aren't traveling, I think, because people don't, number one, don't feel confident in traveling right now. And number two, with the economy, I think you've got people who've got financial challenges, and that's something that they're gonna cut out. But I think, one thing I'm proud of, though, is if you look at this county and you look at how seriously the leadership of this county has addressed this and tried to tackle this, I think that's exactly what we need to be doing so that people will be confident that this is a safe place to visit. And I think, it's obviously going to take more work, and ultimately, I think everybody wants to see a vaccine as soon as possible. So so I think that's where we need to get to be where we need to be.
For Dr. Pino.
Good to see you back, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. So what is a business who has employees who test positive for the virus? Are they required to disclose anything? And if so, what is that?
I don't think that require is the word, although we can find always a loophole where we can require them to close. I have to say that the large majority of the business that we have talked to, immediately after we suggest, listen, you should do this and that, we have no need to enforce anything. People have closed voluntarily. Of course, it's to the best interest and the best interest of the business to do so, but also people really care about other people. Factory have closed, mattress, farms, and some other businesses that have closed discreetly. When we call them and say, hey, listen, you have more than 2 cases there, you need to revise your protocols and procedures. And in some areas, when applicable, and that we will have the ability to do it, we go to some business and see what they are doing and advise them what to do and highlight some areas that people can make improvement. But for any businesses that is large enough and it has a break room, break rooms are an issue for us. We are finding a lot of transmission happening in break rooms. It looks like because it's the space that we go to relax and talk and be together at work, people are taking their masks off to eat and to socialize in that, and we're finding a little bit of that. So for any businesses that have break rooms, clean those break rooms really well. Keep your mask while you are heating your coffee, getting your water, and move out of there if you don't need to be there for too long.
And one more actually for you. Is there, I know you mentioned we've had a couple of days of kind of de-acceleration, but it also kind of looks like the pool of overall tests that come back has been smaller than previous days. And, when you look at it statewide, it's like something like probably 60% of the last, we're at about 60% of what we were a few days prior. Is there anything going on with testing that kind of would explain that, or is it just kind of the ebbs and flows of results coming back?
As the pandemic increased and we give this number, the community get more anxious and people want to get tested. And testing has a value, and that's not what I'm going to say. But a negative test in a community widespread means little in the sense of next day you can acquire. So what is critically important is to protect yourself. And if your test is negative, try and make an effort to continue to be that way. So testing goes up and down depending on needs. The convention center that is sponsored by the Department of Emergency Management and the Florida Department of Health has increased their testing almost double. Remember, we started with 350, they went to 700, they went to 1,000, they went to 1,200, now they are in the 1,700. And some days we are getting 4,000 test results back. But average is close to 3,000 a day, average.
I have a couple of questions in Spanish. First one would be for Mr. Diamond. Given the critical levels of collection, for how long have you studied you can continue without having other serious consequences to the finances of the county? And for Dr. Pino or Mayor Demings, I would like to ask, is there any inspections or surveillance going on in businesses to make sure that they are, having these measures complied by their patrons?
The first question, was it for Mr. Dunn?
I hate to do this, but would you mind repeating that first question?
Sure. Given the low levels of collections that you guys are experiencing, for how long do you calculate you can continue to have those levels before reaching a critical phase?
It depends. The short answer is it depends. It depends on how quickly we come back up. If we're going to collect $1 million a month, then that's the worst case scenario. But if we're going to go up to $5 million, $10 million, $15 million a month, that's a whole different story. And it's something that, see, I'm getting the signal. I haven't, I think in football you'd say I've outkicked my coverage. So let me stop and ask.
La respuesta del Contralor Phil Diamond a la pregunta es que la respuesta corta es que todo depende. Si seguimos capturando 1 millón al mes, pues ciertamente estaríamos en niveles críticos, pero si vemos que aumenta 5, 10, 15 millones, pues entonces el panorama sería diferente.
Thank you, Ilya. Exactly what I was going to say. So I think it's just a question of how fast and how quickly it recovers, and the other side of it is the spending side. And I know the mayor and the Board of County Commissioners are well aware of the challenges, and I know they're looking at that as far as the spending side. So it'll come down to the spending and the revenue. And I think the revenue, unfortunately, is not as controllable. I think it really all just depends on things getting better as quickly as possible, and people being healthier and getting to a point where we've got things under control with the disease.
Nuevamente él recalca que todo depende de cuán rápido nos recuperemos, pero que obviamente hay que considerar tanto el aspecto de los ingresos como los gastos. La Junta ha sido muy conservadora, al igual que el alcalde, y es un aspecto que podemos controlar, pero no podemos controlar los ingresos.
Is how are you considering to cut on expenses? Would be layoffs a possibility, something that affects the workers of the county?
Well, that's really something that would be decided by the Board of County Commissioners if things got to that point. Sometimes when you look at the calendar and where we are right now, it's hard to believe we're just in the first week of July.
Con relación a los gastos, el Contralor aclara que es algo que la Junta tendría que decidir si es que llegásemos a una situación como esa. Y entonces añade que si miramos al calendario es increíble que ya estamos en el mes de julio.
And I say that because it was just 6 months ago or thereabouts that we were thinking we might have a record-setting year. We might collect $300 million. And then it was April when county staff projected that maybe a more realistic target was $200 million. And then just recently, I think in the past week or so, the latest projection is $150 million.
Aclara que hace la salvedad de que estamos en julio, porque hace 6 meses estábamos proyectando un ingreso de $300 millones. Fue tan solo en abril cuando el personal ajustó esas proyecciones a 200 millones y más recientemente la proyección más favorable a 150 millones.
So, and I just say that to show just how quickly things have changed, and things can change very quickly going forward. And we've only had this month and last month, which have been the levels that we're talking about. March was about halfway down. It was like a 56% decrease or something. So I just say that to say that it's a little early to tell.
The question I asked for Mayor Demings or Dr. Pino, if that's the case, is inspections at businesses. Are they being carried out to be vigilant that, that the measures of precautions are being taken by businesses and their patrons?
Yeah, the state licensing agencies is conducting inspections, unannounced inspections in different type of businesses. Yes, they do. Sí, el Buró de Negocios del Estado continúa inspeccionando restaurantes, bares y otros lugares para determinar que están cumpliendo con las normas que están en lugar. Sí, lo están haciendo. Ellos lo pueden cerrar también, claro, sí. Ha habido historias recientes en los periódicos de licencias que se han suspendido a producto de violaciones en ese sentido.
Dr. Pino, this is a follow-up to Ryan's question coming in from Lauren Seabrook with WFTV. Have the same amount of people been tested in the last 3 days as the 3 previous days when the numbers were higher? And you said yesterday testing with results were delayed by 5 or more days are irrelevant. If that's the case, what's the point of anyone getting tested right now when it's taking 9 to 12 days for many?
So the first question with regard to are we getting the same number of tests every day? So the numbers that I report are the results that we got that day, not the number of tests that were performed that day. And that's a little difference because we get the results when we get the results. There's no other way around that one. But we also daily know, and it has been the same in the last 3 days, that the convention center is breaking records every day in the number of tests that they have there. I believe yesterday they did over 1,700 tests. So with that and everyone involved and having some days 4,000 tests coming back, I think that we are performing about between 3,000 and 4,000 tests a day in the county.
This next question is from Nasim Miller with Orlando Sentinel. Dr. Pino, some South Florida hospitals are scaling back on elective procedures due to rising COVID hospitalizations. Could that happen here?
Yes, it could happen here.
This next question, and she would like it respond in Spanish, comes from Ingrid Cotto with the El Sentinel. Some residents are reporting up to 4-hour wait times for some testing sites. Are there any recommendations or accommodations, for people with special needs or the elderly that you could recommend for asymptomatic people who might be deterred by these long wait times if they want to get tested?
Well, the convention center is not the only place that is testing. In Spanish. En Spanish. El centro de convenciones no es el único lugar que está haciendo pruebas. Mucha gente va allí porque es el lugar más conocido, llegas en el carro, lo puedes hacer, pero CVS está haciendo testing, True Health está haciendo testing. El condado tiene en la página de internet un mapa muy interesante donde puedes ver los lugares que están haciendo testing. Walmart está haciendo testing. Nosotros estamos haciendo testing en los outbreaks. So, hay oportunidades para las personas. No todo el mundo tiene que ir allí, donde hay que esperar 4 horas porque se ha incrementado el volumen y el número de gente que lo quiere. Y con respecto a las acomodaciones, siempre deben llamar al 311 para ver qué tipo de acomodaciones están disponibles. Hay algunos casos, y nosotros lo hicimos muchas veces también, en que la transportación se ha ofrecido, pero deben llamar al 311 para saber si hay.
Thank you, Dr. Pino. And Lauren Seabrook, kindly text me back as a reminder to her second portion of her question. What is the point of people getting tested right now when it's taking 9 to 12 days? Should they still be testing? Is that, how important is that?
So I didn't want to answer that one. So Lauren, that's why I skipped that one. But I have to answer, I guess. Listen, any test is better than no test. That's the truth. And people who are suspected to be in contact with anyone and that has been positive and have developed symptoms should be quarantined and isolated while they are waiting for that test. Now, we know that asymptomatic people have played a role in transmission larger than initially thought, and those people may go around their lives because they are not feeling anything, even when they are getting tested. But my advice to anyone, if you are getting tested because you are suspecting that you acquired the virus, or if you are being in contact with someone and you were not wearing protection, or the individual was not wearing protection, hunker down until you get the results. 9 days is not an optimal waiting time for a result. We are fighting to get that into lower numbers. We are going to acquire, we are looking into acquire rapid testing that it only takes 15 minutes in the county to speed this up. But the reality is that results should be as fast as possible, at least 24 to 48 hours, so that we can have a greater impact. And that's the truth.
Thank you. I just have two more. This next one is directed to you, Mayor Demings, and Dr. Pino comes in from Jose Rodriguez with Deporte Total USA. His question is, the Major League Soccer tournament is scheduled to start on July 8th at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. The league reported 6 new cases within one team this morning. Do you think it is safe to have this tournament in your county? And if not, are you planning on communicating this to the league?
Well, with conversations that we've had with the league as well as with the Disney representatives, before any players will be allowed to travel here to participate in the competition or the games, they have to be screened. And so they'll know before they come here whether or not they're positive or not. The coaching staff and other supportive staff that will travel with the teams will go through the same. Then they will be put in an environment where there will be restricted access to that environment. The same Disney employees that will help support them while they're there staying on the Disney property will create an environment where they're isolated somewhat from others who may be able to come into that environment and test positive. They will undergo frequent testing, and there will be a number of sanitary measures that will be put in place to keep the players safe. So at this point, I remain optimistic that they could engage in the professional sports. It's a spectatorless process that they will be involved in, but at the same time allow American citizens to see professional sports that could provide some type of positive pastime for Americans who are missing that in terms of their enjoyment, relaxation, etc. So we remain highly encouraged by it.
And this last one comes from Chris Gradaro with West 2 News. Mayor Demings, a few businesses in Orange County are confirming staff members have contracted COVID-19. We've recently received tips from employees who are worried about returning to work under the same circumstances in which their colleagues have contracted COVID. Do you believe a business should temporarily close if it experiences a certain percentage of employees who test positive, what guidance would you give those employees who are fearful about losing their jobs or being exposed?
What I would encourage is for our citizens who may feel that something is occurring in a business work setting that shouldn't be occurring is to provide that information to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, provide that information to the Florida Department of Health, provide that information to your local governments. We all have different regulatory authorities over businesses, and we will take appropriate action during that period of time. Do I believe that a business should shut down if they reach a certain pinnacle of having positive employees? There's probably something to be said there that a business should make the appropriate decision, but it depends on the size and the scope of the business, the type of business that they're engaged in, and they'll have to make a corporate decision. If I were a business owner, I would keep in mind that in terms of general liability for the safety and security of your employees and your patrons, there's something to be said about taking appropriate action as opposed to burying your head in the sand and not paying attention to the safety of others. I expect our businesses to put people over profits. Okay. Okay. All right. We will be available if there's a need for any one-on-ones. Anyone here, we have Commissioner Maribel Gomez-Cordero, who has joined us. She's fluent in Spanish as well. So thank you all for participating today. We hope you have a wonderful Independence Day and 4th of July weekend.